wouldn't say free, more like under new management.
How does this?
I'll make a cup of coffee for your head.
Turn it to this!
Cut my life into pieces. This is my life.
Stop opening your yarn like this. Instead, open like this.
These roads of flames are catching a fire.
You are the type of person that they can't find twice. Remember that.
Every damn day I'm hustling. Don't drink no still, mine's bubbling. No shamrock shake.
That has potential.
I'ma just say the rest of that right there. I'ma just say that for later. It was good though.
Go figure. Look at this. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh, would you look at this? Just look at it. Just look at it.
Yeah, well.
What the heck?
Don't be a hoarder. Don't be... It has potential. It has potential. It has potential. I'll use it. I know I'll use it.
I've never known someone like you. Tangled in love, stuck by you. From the glue. Don't forget to kiss me, or else you'll have to miss me. I guess I'm stuck forever by the glue. Oh, and you.
Best mini crochet projects to use up your scrap yarn. Mini octopus plushie, scrunchies, mini whale plushie,
Hey guys, so as you may know, I've been trying to use up all of my scrap yarn instead of buying anything new, so I decided to use this really beautiful blue colour to make a Bimo plush. This was really fun because I've been trying to get back into amigurumi, so this is just a nice little project to do. Pretty easy pattern. I found this on Ravelry, so check it out if you would like to. They're not the perfect colours to make Bimo, but it works pretty well, and like I said, I didn't want to go out and buy any yarn especially for it because that defeats the point. Adding all the appliques, is that what it's called? I got very lazy with, so I decided to just glue them on with Yoo-hoo glue, seeing as I was keeping this for myself and I'm not giving it as a gift or selling it to anyone, so I just went the lazy route and just glued it on. But I think they came out really cute in the end. I love how it all works together, and yeah, just so sweet, such a fun little project to do, and they look so cute next to my squishes.
Let's review. You took a rumor a few, maybe two people knew, and refuted it by sharing an affair of which no one has accused you. I begged you to take a break, you refused to. So scared of what your enemies will do to you. You're the only enemy you ever seem to lose to. You know why Jefferson can do what he wants? He doesn't dignify schoolyard taunts with a response. So yeah, congratulations. You've redefined your legacy. Congratulations.
It was an act of political sacrifice.
Sacrifice? I languished in a loveless marriage in London. I lived only to read your letters. I look at you and think, God, what have we done with our lives, and what did it get us? That doesn't wipe the tears or the years away, but I'm back in the city and I'm here to stay, and you know what I'm here to do. Angelica, I'm not here for you.
Let's turn this thrifted blanket into some cash. The most tedious part about all of this is unraveling the blanket and balling it up again. So after my thumbs going numb and days of work, we have 10 balls total from this blanket. Full disclosure, I have no idea how much I paid for this blanket. It was definitely less than $10. So 10 skeins out of this, insane. Little update, I had another blanket that I needed to ball up. This created 7 skeins of yarn. They all look slightly different. These are the colors. So gorgeous. I found a buyer on Facebook Marketplace, and we were willing to negotiate down to $3.50 per skein of yarn, which means I am going to make a $60 profit off of these skeins. Thank you for following along on my journey to some side cash. With TikTok going away and you would like to keep up with me, I'm going to put all of my socials on the screen right here for you. If you have any questions, let me know. Comment while we can, I guess.
So what do you do with your yarn scraps when you're done with them? Well, when I have a piece that is too small to use for my next project, I add it to my ever-growing scrap ball. Every piece is tied together with the magic knot, which we talked about at length in an earlier video. Here's an example of the magic knot. It is not going anywhere, and it holds the whole thing together, every single strand. And what I love to do is just keep this guy around. When it gets really big or when I get a crazy hair, I make something adorable, like this guy. I make a worry pet, like him, or if I'm really feeling like using up a lot of it, I can make a really big fuzzy sloth. So this is what I do with my magic ball of scraps. What do you do with your scraps?
With just $1.25 yarn, I'm going to turn this into $45. You ready? With just one skein, I'm able to make 9 of these cute little hearts. So that would make each heart about 13 cents. That is just material costs and no time calculations are included in that. So this is actually really fast. For my heart pattern, I don't do like any joining or anything like that. This is all made in one piece. So I turn this into keychains. So I have these swivel clasps, and I just made it into a keychain for my cup. If you put everything all in, so the clasp, the chain, and my material for the heart, it's $1.27, and you can resell these for about $5. Really, it just depends on you and your market. Personally, for me, I would put these up for $5, and 5 times 9, $45. And if I do the calculation that I did 9 of them, the material cost is about like $11.43, which would give me about $33 in profit. If you want something that's a little bit more economical, I actually put one on just the clasp. All in on this one, the material cost is about 88 cents. So really, it's just up to you on what you want to do for your fixings to make it into a keychain, because if you use the just chenille yarn and if you use this pattern, it's only going to be 13 cents, and then you can do whatever you want. We have so many cute gift ideas to do with these, so stay tuned, and we're going to show you some super fun things, including a tutorial.
If you have a lot of scrap yarn, here's a bunch of fun crochet projects for you. First up, we have cardigans like this, where it's literally just like a bunch of square panels. So you make 2 for the front, 1 for the back, and then 2 for your sleeves. And so you could just keep crocheting in a square line, like just keep going. I can make a video if you want to explain it further, but you just make a bunch of squares and that's it. I personally love cardigans for the center ties that you can make, and then also I like how she added the ruffles on this sweater. Very similar would be a vest like this one. You just make 2 square panels and again just crochet until you reach the length that you want, and you can add a trim around it like she did here or not. A very simple project would just be to make a headband. You could do a stripe pattern like this one or this one. I also love the idea of a granny square headband. Lastly is bucket hats. I love them because you can use whatever yarns, like you can mix and match yarns like cotton and acrylic, different colors together, and it'll just look so good no matter what you do. That's all I have for right now. I hope you guys enjoyed, and happy crocheting!
Part 4 of my crochet curtain series, and this is the tutorial. If you're anything like me and you have a ton of scrap yarn lying around, even if it's the tiniest little ball, grab it and let's go. The best thing about this project is that it is completely customizable. Whatever yarn you want, whatever hook size you want, and it is completely up to you how long to make your chains. Honestly, a little hack for you guys is I don't even count anymore. I will take this one ball and it into one really long chain, cut off the sections of length that I need. Alright, that one I finished in about 9 minutes. I'm going to show you on the sample piece how to cut your sections. So you'll find whatever chain you want to cut at, and you're going to cut just the front or back loop of that chain, right? And then once you pull the pieces apart, you should be able to simply pull both sides to tighten it, and then you have 2 strands. It's going to be a lot easier if you just make one long one and then split them off. I even got 3 from this one ball. So once you have enough of your little worms, up at the top of the door frame where my base chain is, so I'm going to find my 2 end pieces, put them together, and then just string it down to find that middle loop that we're going to use the Lex knot with. We're going to slip the loop under the base chain, and then we're going to put the 2 ends through that loop and then pull. And then boom. You tighten it however you'd like to tighten it. And the good thing about this method is, with it not being actually attached to the base chain, you can move them and switch colors in between. So let's say I wanted to do this pink color, but I don't want to do it right next to this pink, so we're just going to scoot some of these over, and we're going to do it in between those colors. So I got my loop, and take my loop under, and then pull my pieces through that loop, and then tighten. And then you just scoot it wherever you need it.
Don't worry if the ends come out different lengths, you can always give them a little trim. I low-key gave it like layers. Here's the final product. Stay tuned for the last part where I show you guys my favorite ways to style and drape.
It's another day to show you my recent crochet creations, so let's just dive right in. First up, we have a little pink ghostie, which I finished about 2 nights ago. I made pink and blue ghosts for my last market, and both of them sold, so I wasn't really sure how not white ghosts were going to go down, but I think the blue ones and the pink ones are pretty cute and people like them. I've yet to make a yellow one, though, because I think it would just look like a pea ghost. Then I've been trying to use up some of my scrap yarn, so I have a whole bucket just full of tiny, tiny little balls of yarn that aren't enough to make actual projects with, but they are perfect for jellyfish because each little part is a different color. So I made this one's a bit bigger than the rest of them, but every single tentacle is a different color. I think most of this yarn is Juicy Couture yarn that I have left over. Then I have this little white jellyfish with all his different colors. I made a gray one. This one has like a blue, green, and purple color scheme, which I like. And then the last one is this purple one, which has a little pastel color scheme. They're actually all of the plushies that I made recently. Next up, I have a couple of beach bags. I showed you one of these in my last crochet video. So this is a pattern by Hey Hey Crochet. I think it's super cute. It's like a beach bag pattern. It's really quite big because the bottom is made up of a giant granny square. So you can really hold quite a bit of stuff in here. And like I said in my last video, you don't have to use this as a beach bag. I don't go to the beach, but you could use it for lots of different things. I made it with 100% cotton yarn, so it is washable, so you could use it for things like going to the farmer's market and filling it up with fruits and veggies. But I wanted to do like a summerween collection with like Halloween color schemes, so this is my like candy corn color scheme one, and then this is the one that I showed you in my last video, but I hadn't weaved in the ends at that time. I did weave in the ends now, and this is like the witchy purple color scheme. So I think that these are super fun for summerween. And then from making those bags, I ended up with more scrap yarn because they weren't quite big enough to use up an entire skein of each color. So I had just a little bit left of each color of yarn. So I decided to make coasters out of them to use up more of that scrap yarn. So this is the candy corn colored one. Then I made just a solid orange one. And then the last one that I made is this light purple one, which I haven't quite weaved in the ends for yet, but I also plan to make another one out of the dark purple yarn. So there'll be like a set of 2 for each one. And these are just like the perfect coaster sizes. Like I said, it's 100% cotton, so it's the perfect kind of material for coasters because you could put hot stuff on it as well. And like a mug sits perfectly in this middle part, so the little flower petals are just peeping out of the bottom of the mug.
How I turn scraps like this into beautiful hand-spun yarn. I've been letting my scraps build up for about a year, and I thought it was finally time to deal with them and upcycle them into a new beautiful hand-spun yarn. As you can see, I have more than just yarn ends here. I have some sari silk, I have some fibre, I have some ribbons and some fabric offcuts too, but we're going to process it all into yarn again. The first thing that I do is colour code all the yarn scraps to make it easier to design what I want the yarn to look like. Then I move on to breaking down the things like the sari silk ribbons into smaller, more fibre pieces. I just do this by cutting them into small sections and then beginning to pull them apart by the threads of the warp and the weft. I do leave some little strips of ribbons in to give some texture, but this just makes it easier to spin. And now it's time to card. First step in my carding process is breaking down the yarn and fibre and fabric scraps into a more fibre kind of material. So I'm just going to start loading all the scraps into my hand carders. Then start brushing them out by transferring the fibre from one carder to another until I'm happy with the fibre I'm left with. As you can see, I don't like to completely blend the yarn ends down. I like to leave them looking yarny, so when they're spun, you can tell that this is a recycled yarn. Now I'm going to blend my scraps with another fibre. Using another fibre as a binder is a good way just to make your life easier and your yarn more consistent. I like to use silk cocoon strippings for this. It's far cheaper than processed silk, It also hasn't been degummed, so it still has a sticky quality which helps bind all these yarn ends together while still being shiny and soft and luxurious. I like to go for about a 50-50 blend, so I'm going to weigh out my yarn ends, then match that with silk cocoon strippings. I'm going to be blending on my hand carders, so I'm going to start off by putting a thin layer of strippings on one carder and then another layer of the yarn ends. Then I get to work carding and blending and adding some more fibre until I'm happy with how the two materials have blended together. I'm going to be spinning from row lags, so to end I'm going to put half the fibre on one carder and half the fibre on another. Then gently lay one set of fibre over the other. Next I grabbed my chopsticks, and of course I'm using my Naruto ones. I sandwiched the fibre at one end of the carder between two chopsticks, then gently roll the fibre into a little sausage, making sure all the fibre comes off the carder onto the chopsticks. Then I just remove the chopsticks and you have a row lag. Now I have to do this for all of them, and it took forever, but here are all of my blended colour-coded row lags. Now to spin. I kept it simple and just did one big single. I totally forgot to film myself spinning, so here's a little time lapse of the last half an hour. And the final single. It's kind of rainbow but kind of not, but I love that. And as you can see, there's still lots of lovely scrappy and ribbon textural bits, making it just super interesting. Now to ply. I managed to get it all on one jumbo flyer and I was so proud of myself. But here is the final yarn. I really love that it looks recycled. I think if you're going to make something recycled, you might as well accentuate those qualities and leave those nice little scrappy and textural bits in there. It just makes for such a unique yarn. I still have to complete the finishing process and probably whack it, but I'm so happy with how this turned out. I got so much more yarn than I was expecting, and this skein should be available soon, so keep an eye out for that if you're interested in giving it a new home.
Let me show you what I've been doing with all of my scrap yarn. So I'm making a bunch of these hexie puffs and turning them into this quilt. Alright, to start you're going to want to create your slip stitch, and you're either going to want to chain 7 or do 6 foundation single crochets. Here you're going to see me do foundation single crochets. As we go along, I'm going to be putting the pattern on the screen as well. Alright, when you're done with that, you're going to want to chain your 1, and I'm just tightening the beginning of my foundation single crochets, but you're going to want to create an increase in that first stitch from hook, and then you are just going to single crochet across the rest of the row. You'll stop when you get to that last stitch, and you'll again create an increase. Alright, now chain 1 and turn your work, and into your first stitch you're going to make an increase. You're going to single crochet across the row and then make an increase in the last stitch of each row for the next 4 rows, so until you have 6. Alright, if you are only creating half of a hexie puff, which is what I'm doing for the borders of my blanket, you're going to stop here. Otherwise, you can continue and again chain 1 and turn your work, and then you are going to be working a decrease into the first 2 stitches of that row, and then across the row you're just going to do your single crochets until you are left with 2 stitches at the end of the row, and then you're going to do a decrease in those last 2 stitches. Again, chain 1 and turn, you're going to work a decrease into the first 2 stitches of the row. You're going to single crochet across and then work a decrease into the last 2 stitches of each row, and you're going to do this 5 more times. You should know to stop decreasing when you've ended up back with 6 stitches on your row, so you're just going to single crochet across the last row. Alright, and that is your first half of the hexie puff. You can snip off that end. I would recommend leaving a long tail on one of the halves of your hexie puff to use for sewing. And you're going to want to repeat all the same steps that we did before and just create a second hexie puff. For the purposes of this video, I've already made my second hexie puff, so what you're going to want to do is just line those up as best as you can, and you should see they will be a very similar size. And then you're going to want to whip stitch all around the edge. So I'm grabbing my darning needle, I'm making sure all of those stitches are lined up, and I'm just pulling my yarn through, and this should be a relatively invisible stitch if you are using the same color of yarn, especially since these hexie puffs are all going to be sewn together. You really shouldn't see the seam. You'll also notice as I'm going along at the corners, I'm just tucking the ends inside of a hexie puff and just sewing them in, which is super nice so you don't have to weave them in. Alright, and when you get to the end, you're going to want to make sure that you make a really nice and secure knot. That way your hexie puff is not unraveling before you. What I do is I just insert near where my yarn is sticking out. I make a loop, draw through that loop, and then create another loop and draw through that loop, and then just pull tight. And that is just about it. What I'm doing is I'm inserting my crochet hook from the opposite side, and I'm just grabbing that yarn and I'm tucking it inside of the hexie puff so that you can no longer see it. It just gives it a much nicer look. You can leave the ends on the outside for when you later go to sew all of your hexie puffs together. Alright, this is what you should end up with. This is what it should all look like. And then when you create more hexie puffs, they can all stack together like this, and you'll just sew along where the two hexie puffs meet, and you'll keep on doing that until you have a blanket that's the size that you want. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave any questions in the comments for me.
How do I turn yarn scraps like this into roll lags like this that I can spin into brand new yarn? So first you're going to need a few tools. You're going to need some yarn scraps, right? You're also going to need either hand carders or, as this user points out and as I've suggested in the past, you can also use dog brushes. So dog brushes are a great starting off point to figure out if like hand carding fiber, hand carding wool in general is for you, because carders like these, although they're not like the most expensive tool when it comes to spinning, they're not cheap either, and so if you want to, you know, decide whether or not it's worth it to invest your money into something like this, I recommend start with dog brushes. The bigger the better, and the stronger the better. So you really want to, you know, texture up and fluff up the fiber as much as possible with these brushes, and I'm going to show you the technique as to how I do it. Alright, so in some of my roll lags, I definitely left some larger pieces of string because I am planning on making kind of an art yarn with that. But depending on the style of yarn that you're going for, you're going to want to cut up some of the yarn. If you are already a spinner and you have really any other like fiber scraps, like little pieces of wool and things that you can kind of mix into the mixture, that will make everything hold together better. And you're just going to take, you know, little bunches of yarn and you're going to cut them up into like little pieces. I'll show you the pieces in a second to give you an idea of the length. I'd say like probably an inch or shorter. Some bits are definitely going to be on the shorter side, but you get the picture by the bowl that I have here. You know, you get a mix, but do make sure, you know, they're short enough. The shorter they are, the easier it's going to be to brush them out, release the twist, and, you know, turn them into new spinnable fiber. Get your dog brushes, your hand carders, whatever you got. Again, if you have a little like starter wool or like waste wool that you can mix in with everything else, I really do recommend. That will just make everything kind of stick together in the bat easier, and just like stick to the carders better and make it easier to like fluff the fiber up in general. And then you're just gonna grab, you know, a nice handful and you're just gonna put it onto the carder. And you're going to do this somewhere where you don't mind making a mess, because it's probably going to make a mess. And then you're just, you know, you're going to do what you normally would. Honestly, this is not enough. I feel like I need more. But as you can see, just a few brushes and things start to sort of unravel and fluff up. All right. Now, there is a technique to carding. So if you, like, don't understand how to transfer the fiber from one to the other in order to sort of like optimize the roll lag that you're getting here, and also get like both sides. So like one side was really well blended, but this is the underside, and so we're gonna take the fiber off. And then there you go. There's your, I call these floof noodles. I'm not the only one. I didn't invent that. They're just like the fiber community. That's what we call them. And you can kind of, I don't know, if you need to store them nicely and aesthetically, you can kind of roll them up into a little guy for storage for later on. And yeah, I have so many of these that I can't hold them all up right now. But we're going to make some recycled yarn on live very soon. So if you want to come check that out, hop on the live.